From the Bent Pixel Studios in Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Phone Booth Fighting, a free podcast covering the world of mixed martial arts and so far beyond, as we've been doing for quite some time now with myself, Richard Hunter, and that guy, the two-time UFC heavyweight champion named
Frank Mir.
Frank Mir, indeed. Current Bellator heavyweight contender who's got his next fight coming up with Javi Ayala in December. We'll talk about that maybe a little bit later on. But, Frank, you brought a friend for show and tell. Who's in studio with us?
Serena DeJesus is in town, or not in town, is in studio right now. She trains over at Syndicate. She just had her pro debut back in April with a very successful amateur career. She's now transitioned to a pretty successful professional career. But she also represents something I thought was extremely interesting, is fighting for autism. So from there, I'll let Serena take over.
Yeah, Syndicate. We train at Syndicate.
Yes, we do.
That's right. I thought I recognized you. Yeah, part of the Syndicate family.
Does she ever help you in the mornings?
We have not seen each other in the mornings yet. No.
I've seen you rolling. I was other people. I thought it was kind of rude to interrupt. I always have my hair up in a bun and everything.
Oh, right. Yeah, because you probably wanted to help. You probably wanted to desperately help and jump in and try to.
Actually, I'd have, but I'm like, let me not be rude. He's already working with like Jesse or somebody. I see you like working with Jesse a bit sometimes, and I'm like. Yeah. I'll leave it to her.
He's already crying. I don't need to add to the
insult to injury.
Yeah, the emotion. But you know what?
Not that mean.
I've actually rolled with your sister because she's been in one of the classes I was in. So yeah, I got to meet her. But yeah, tell us about. So you have you've already had your pro debut. That was Fusion Fight League, right?
Yes, very good promotion. I love those guys.
Cool, and got a win. So you're 1-0, undefeated fighter. Fusion Fight League, and it was in it was like Montana, right?
Yes, it was in Great Falls, Montana. Yeah. They bounced from Great Falls and Billings a bunch.
Yeah, doesn't Great Falls, Montana, Frank, sounds like a place you should have your pro MMA debut, doesn't it? Like
it does sound very.
You know, your Great Falls, Montana, your Thackerville, Oklahoma. There's there's like everybody I think should have like one of those places on their resume. It's
How does Evansville, Indiana?
Evansville, Indiana. That's a good one because
that was my pre debut.
Boy, do I have a story. Do I have a story for you about one of my amateur fights?
Let's hear it.
I fought a deaf girl in the Italian ballroom, in the ballroom of an Italian restaurant in Price, Utah.
What?
Yeah, it was a fun fight. I won that, but, it was kind of funny. I felt a little weird about, at this point I was looking for fights. I had everybody, even down from, I was still living in Philadelphia, I had everyone all the way down to Arkansas. I'd be like, nah, I don't want to fight this one. I'm like, are you fucking serious? And then finally I got an offer. Nobody told me until like probably the week of the fight the girl I was fighting was deaf. And I'm like, I don't know, but I'm telling my mom, I don't know how I feel about fighting a deaf girl. And she's like, well, I bet she doesn't feel great about hitting an autistic girl either. Just deal with it.
Good point.
And I'm like, she called it the short bus cage match. And I'm like, Mom.
Oh, that's your mom called it?
My mom's a savage. I love her, but she is a savage.
That's interesting. So, okay, how many amateur fights did you have?
I have 7 amateur mixed martial arts bouts. Okay. I have 2 AMI Muay Thai bouts, and as you said, I had my pro debut in April, and it was a fun one.
Okay, so how many fights had you had by the time you fought in the Italian restaurant?
That was fight number 3. Okay. My third MMA fight, yeah.
All right, so I'm going to make sure I get the picture here, Frank. So are there people eating in the Italian restaurant?
No, it's just they converted the whole ballroom of it into it, like, the cage was so, like, almost touched the ceiling. I was just like, okay. How the fuck did this get sanctioned?
Yeah.
And it was like right outside there was like a bar and there's people going like, where are my rednecks at? I'm like... I see alcohol, I just might have found my people after the fight. Yeah. It was just, I'm in the middle of oil rigging, coal mining country. I'm just like, this is the thing. Yeah. And poor Roxanne, my friend Roxanne Modafferi drove me out here. It was me, her, and Jamie Moyle, who was with us at the time. Yeah. And we're having this, it was funny because there's a Jamie.
They were at the Italian restaurant as well?
Yeah, they were my quartermen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they were my quartermen. And they're like, it's funny because Jamie, she is the best person ever. So calm, so zen. And we're going through the rules meeting. There's telling the corners not to stand up. And she's like, oh, yeah, we're fine. Middle of the fight, she's standing there like, go, Serena, go! With her little short stack self. I love her.
Well, they probably didn't want them to stand up because they hit their head on the ceiling.
Probably, the way how short this is. But given, Jamie's stature, that wouldn't have been a problem for her.
Fighting a deaf girl in an Italian restaurant, Frank, how does that compare with any of your early fights?
She has been beat.
Yeah. Yeah. You have the story, though, about where you fought and they only had 2 pairs of gloves, so they took the gloves off the people who just fought and put them on the people who were fighting next, right?
They actually had 4 sets, so you had the set that was inside the cage, and then whoever was on deck had a set. But then once their fight was over with the guys that fought, they took their gloves and then handed to the next guys that were going on deck.
Yeah.
So that way there was a smoother transition of glove care. But
I'll bet those were nice and moist.
That's okay. I've been to one, though. The next one I went to, they let you bring your own gloves. I didn't think that was the best idea in the world. But
that's a good idea.
No, they just kind of looked at them like, they would check them, so it wasn't like you could stitch a shoehorn in there.
Yeah. That sounds like kind of like fusion fight, like a little bit. I mean, they have gloves for you to take, but they also have gloves for you can bring your own gloves and have them check and everything.
Oh, right.
So
yeah,
it was kind of the best of both worlds, but
yeah,
the thinnest gloves they had happened to be the pink gloves. So here we are, the women's fight of the night, and we're both wearing pink ass gloves. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh my God, can this get any worse?
Well, you're like, hey, I got autism awareness going. I got breast cancer. I got a lot of awareness going. I'm creating a lot of awareness. Yeah. Well, that's, that's really cool that, that's part of your story. And I guess just to kind of get the background on it and everything in terms of because I know there's different kinds of autism and things like that. So for your particular case, what are the challenges that presents in terms of MMA?
I have light and noise sensitivity, so I normally wear a hat, about because bright lights can hurt me over time, and I get really bad migraines. I mean,
yeah, sorry about all this.
This is fine right now because I take CBD oil to really help me out. It's really lessened my stuff. Like today, I had to go see a doctor for something, and they were like touching me, and I'm like shaking like this, and like, what's going on? I'm like, sorry, sensory issues. So there are little things I have to adapt, and then noise sensitivity. Hence, I wear headphones a lot.
Oh yeah.
So without the CBD oil, I was kind of like stimming everywhere. I'm shaking like this, and everyone's like, "She okay?" They're like looking at me weird. I'm like, we know what autism is for the autism wearers, but we don't know how to treat people with autism yet, because 3 out of my 4 siblings, me included, were all autistic. Like Kelsey, who you rolled with, she's autistic.
Yeah.
My big little brother, who just turned 15 yesterday, is autistic, and then there's me. So, but we thrive in a martial arts environment. It's a regimented routine, regimented things to do, and set time people who are on the same mission as us.
Yeah.
So
now, when you say would you say sensitivity issues? So is it like touching, like
a little bit of touch, but more the light and noise. So before, I always had to do a routine, I have to do certain things at certain times on a certain day, or I'll freak the fuck out. It's just, it doesn't make sense to other people watching, but to me it makes sense, and I have to have that routine or I'm freaking out. Yeah.
Did the process of training, I'm assuming, how early did you find that the process of training martial arts helped with all that?
Almost immediately, because I knew exerting myself in a physical manner helped. I used to powerlift when I was in high school and everything. I was a hefty 180, and I was squatting a little over 300 pounds and all that fun stuff. But once high school ended, my easy access to a weight room kind of went away, and I'm like, I'm going to college now. What the hell do I do? If I don't have a physical outlet, I'm going to go. So I found a gym near where I lived, and I started training in jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai, and I just felt great. I was exhausted, and I lost a lot of weight, and it was pretty nice, and I kept doing it. And I was an avid mixed martial arts fan. I was watching this one when I was very small, Forrest Griffin, everyone. So when I'm going in the syndicate and everyone, I'm like, oh my God, I watched you on TV when I was a little girl with my dad on VHS tapes. Sorry to make you feel old, Frank. But it's really cool. For example, me and Roxy became friends. I was first her fan, and then I came training with her, and now we're inseparable. Yeah. Like a dynamic duo of sorts.
Yeah, she's awesome. Roxanne Modafferi, of course, you're talking about UFC women's flyweight. And, she has such incredible technique. I was actually, when we were watching you train the other day, Frank, in the pro class, I think I was telling Princey this or James, we were just watching her, and I was like, her technique is so incredible. Her grappling technique is just so tight. It's really clinical to watch. You brought up Forrest Griffin. Hey, just apropos of nothing, but I just, pertaining to this conversation, but it just reminded me, is your grappling match with Forrest this weekend?
Yeah.
Okay.
This Saturday.
Okay, that's Saturday, right? Now, that's going to be, people can stream it, I believe, online. That's what I saw. I think it on their Facebook. Black Belt CBD is putting it on, right? Okay, so you can attend it if you're here in Vegas, but I think there's also a Facebook
free admission
stream.
for anybody under 21 years of age.
Yeah.
Sweet.
And I think that the admission even for is only like $10.
Okay.
Oh, that's perfect. There should be no excuse why no one should come.
Yeah, I heard. Now I wasn't here to witness this. Maybe you heard this rumor around the gym the other day, Serena. But I saw on someone's Instagram that somebody had let Frank and Forrest train in the same class, not thinking that these two are going to war on Saturday. And it turned out, Mikey, things got heated. The two started going at it, and John Wood's mom had to chase them both out of the gym with a broom handle. Did you hear about that, Serena?
I did hear about that. I wasn't there, but I had a lot of people tell me that.
Sure.
I'm like, this doesn't surprise me.
No, this is intense.
But at the same time, you know what? Think of it this way. You know, they're training to put on a good show for everybody.
Yes.
And they're going to show great jiu-jitsu. Now, normally, I'm not a big grappling fan. I grapple so I don't have to grapple. But when I watch Frank or Roxy or anybody grapple, I'm like, this is entertaining grappling. Like, for example, with Quintet, I was very entertained by the grappling there. Oh, I went.
It was cool, right?
It was great,
Yeah.
you know? And it was funny because someone was asking when Frank walked out, like, oh, my God, what do y'all feed this man? I'm like, human souls, sometimes egg whites, you know?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Shido. Shido for you. Shido.
Yeah,
Shido.
I like entertaining grappling,
Yeah.
you know? And that was exactly what it was. And I'm, you know, just seeing how all that went, I'm like, this should be invested in heavily. This is not like normal, like, going to a Naga, watching grappling there. It's not like, you know, some super fight. This is like... This is intense. This is the kind of grappling that should be popularized.
You know, the only part that screwed me up is that I actually tried to pull guard in the overtime to get into the half guard.
In the super golden time round?
Yeah.
Whatever the hell that was. And it felt so awkward. I did it so shittily. Afterwards, Rob was like, hey, what was that? I'm like, that was my attempt at pulling guard. He goes, man, I'm like, I used to know how to do that. I'm like, but when's the last time anybody pulled guard in an MMA fight? I'm like, I might have to practice that again. So like this whole last 2 weeks, I've been actually practicing how to sit to my ass again because that's like a major no-no in fighting. Like, no one pulls guard. You know what I mean? Well, you know, there's like the occasional Aoki guy or who's who just won the Ultimate Fighter. Or not just.
Are you talking about Ryan Hall?
Yeah.
The jiu-jitsu specialist?
He does pretty well pulling guard, you know what I mean? Like his little
back,
50-50 series. But for the most part, most people, if pulling guard, you do that, most coaches are going to fucking blow a fuse at the side of the cage. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, like it's either that or someone's going to try and slam your ass. Just like, don't do it.
Yeah.
So then, but now in a grappling match, I'm like, all right, I'm going with gold medalist in judo. I'm not getting this fucker on his back. Yeah. Let me at least try to pull the half guard to be able to, you know, maybe sweep him there.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So I like that expression. You train to grapple so you don't have to grapple.
Yes,
that's a pretty good expression.
Yeah, because when I first came to Syndicate, because I'm from Philadelphia originally, Roxy was throwing me around like a rag doll. I'm heavier than her, but it's just like no effort, and she's throwing me. I'm like, God damn it! So even though I've done jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai at the same time, and I've been in MMA for a little bit, I realized there were some pieces and components that were missing. So me and Roxy tend to bring up the best in each other, you know, because of her grappling expertise, and I'm more of a striker. You know, I did Muay Thai fights and everything before I even got into MMA. You know, it's great. So I grapple so I don't have to, and if I took someone down, they really fucked up. Let's just put it that way. If I took you down because, like, if I cow-catchered somebody, if I did whatever, you really fucked up, but I got your back. You're screwed.
So have you won most of your fights by striking, or it
went to decision, but in the AMI rules you got like 2 minutes, which is almost nothing. There's been times I've almost finished people getting full mount. I even went against a judo brown belt who was on Mexico's national judo team in one of my fights for Tough Enough, and she kept trying to throw me. One time she did, actually got on top and started, I did like a gift wrap to start beating her, and then she started to hold me down in full mount, started pounding her, but by the time I almost finished her, the time went off. I'm like, fuck. With the exception of one fight, all of my stuff have been decisions. And ironically, my first fight, I won by a rear naked choke against a jiu-jitsu instructor, no less.
Oh, yeah.
She kept taking me down because in Pennsylvania, you got to almost pancreation rules. You can't hit the face of a grounded opponent. You can't kick the face even though you got shin pads on. Yet, in Pennsylvania, in Muay Thai, you can kick the face. It's like, what the fuck are we doing here? So this girl is trying to take me down because every time I'm standing up and hitting her, it looks like I almost took her neck off. And so she tries to take me down. I grapevine her. I put her down to her belly, and I get the rear naked choke. But we're wearing these puffy training gloves in our MMA debut, and I can't readjust. I'm like, you know what, fuck it. Pop my hips in, extend her, and just finish it. And I'm like, I just got my blue belt like a month ago, and I just did this to somebody who got their purple or brown belt, and I'm like, hey.
Yeah, that goes to show you any given day, you know.
Grapple so I don't have to fucking grapple.
Yeah, it only takes a second to get caught in a bad position.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you won your pro debut. That was back in what, April?
Yes.
Right. Okay. And then and nothing else booked yet, right?
No. I kind of announced on my social media. I'm a little hurt. You know, I had to take a step back from training. A training accident happened kind of right after my victory. So, you know, I just got to get surgery whenever it finally gets, you know, booked. And I'm out for 3 months, but I'll still be doing it. You know, I'll still be training. Like if Tyron Woodley can train in the sling or whatever with just one arm, I still got 2 good feet. Yeah. Still got, you know, the rest of me healthy, so I can still do whatever. Yeah.
We got a guy in Wimp to Warrior that was walking around in a boot for quite a while. Yeah. And now we got a guy with a bunch of broken toes.
Done that.
Sounds like it's training.
Yeah. I broke my pinky toe once while in the middle of camp, and no one knows how valuable your pinky toe is until it's broken. It sucks.
Yeah.
Like when you walk out, and we had talked about your training, like, you know, you have audio, could have audio senses issues, and then visual with the lights. Now, I'm assuming you can block out your walkout with headphones. How are you going to deal with the lighting techno that is going to occur on the walkout? Does it bother you, or do you have cues that, like, when you're getting stressed out, like, what's your way of calming down from peaking out on a stressful situation?
I try to just zero in and focus on what I'm doing. Like for the last few walkouts I've done, you notice I don't walk. It's not a walkout, it's a run out. I'm making a beeline. And I have my head, you know, the lights I try to not focus on too much. And lately, like I said, because of the CBD I've been using, I have a friend who runs a CBD shop up in Henderson, the Healing Panda. He makes some custom CBD for me, and it's really been a joy. You know, it's made life a lot easier. I'm not stimming all over the place. But before the CBD, I was focusing, okay, this is it. This is like sparring, but someone's being an asshole, and they're coming in your gym. You got to show them what's good. And I have to keep that mentality. I have to keep that, you know, when I have music in, I have to keep that certain beats per minute. Like I listen to dance music, for example, when I come out, which is because it matches my heart rhythm, which is about 120 beats per minute for the music, which is matching my heart, you know, kind of racing a little bit. So the autistic kid gets in a fight and thinks it's a dance party. Yeah.
That would suck if you didn't like dance music, but you needed dance music.
Only certain types.
Okay.
All right.
What do you go to?
Jax Jones.
Okay.
Pretty good stuff.
All right.
But all this other EDM nonsense, not really into too much, but Jax Jones, like he has like good, you know, about some reggaeton influence and hip hop influence and stuff into it, and it's really good.
So since you like to be focused in and help the ambient noise and light you try to divert from, does that change ways of coaching you? Like, is it better for us, if you were being coached, to wait till you come to the corner to give you instruction instead of shouting at you during the fight, because you're really trying to block out outside audio and sensory, and you're hyper-focused on your opponent? Does having a coach screaming, you know, a combination or a movement, does that distract you more than it's actually benefiting you?
No, because the benefit of John, my coach John Wood, is he has a very distinct voice. I'm able to block out people's voices that I don't know. I'll hear maybe John, I'll hear Roxy, and the occasional time my parents are there, I'll hear them screaming.
Okay, so you're able to like audit it.
Yeah,
through.
It's easy over time to do it. When I first started, it was really hard, and now you could see like in the walkout video, I'm like, oh, what the fuck am I doing here? But as time went on, it was easier to learn how to filter out the crowds and everything, and just focus. Okay, John's in this ear. Roxy's in this ear. Maybe as I'm fighting, I'm hearing maybe my mom screaming, kick her ass, she ain't got shit, you know, that stuff.
It's like selecting favorites on your phone.
Pretty much.
You got like your top 10 numbers.
And it's not an easy process. Yeah. It's really something to learn, because John has a good habit of mock coaching while I'm in sparring or whatever, while in fight camp. So it makes it easier for me to learn to filter out everybody else sparring and yelling or grunting or whatever, and just hear John telling me, okay, Serena, sit out to your right hip or something, or shuffle jab, this, that, and it's like, okay. Because if John's voice blended in with other people would be a struggle, but he's very distinct. He doesn't really yell too much, but his voice is so distinct, I can hear it, even amongst the chaos.
You talked before, Frank, about how you can hear just different random things being said during fights and stuff. I think that's so interesting, because I think the average fan who hasn't fought and things like that would probably think, it's just a constant, the crowd, and the idea that you could hear just select thoughts.
Well, just because I've fought for so many times now. Like anything else, I mean, if you train tigers, the very first time you were around one, your heart was probably going to fly out of your chest. The minute someone even said you're going to work tomorrow, you probably fucking had it, I got to go to the bathroom, And not that I'm still not nervous in fights, but obviously it's a lot less. And, the last couple of years of my career, I could be doing something on the ground or moving, and I can hear people talking, and so afterwards,
afterwards.
and the sad part is I'll focus in on their conversation sometimes.
Oh, right, yeah. I was thinking about that with when we were watching Bellator this weekend. Of course, Frank was doing the analyst desks, and I was thinking about that, watching, because a lot of times I'll see the ring card girls checking their text messages or whatever, and I'm like, I know that's what you want to be, but let's at least all pretend we're concerned about this fight that's going on.
Right?
Yeah. Okay, hold on. When we're in between, go back to, let me tell you the joke that later on in the show. Yeah. Remind me to tell you what Jay Glazer did to me.
Oh, okay.
Oh, boy.
It was funny. Okay. No, it was quite comical.
Yeah.
A little bit off of fighting, but more autistic conversation. Because now your brother he's on the spectrum. Your sister,
he has Asperger's like me.
Okay, Asperger's is the least, not the least, but is it the most functioning, they call it?
I guess.
Well, what's the terminology? I don't want to stomp on anything.
Well, Asperger's is not, it's different. It's the kind of autism I feel people don't see, because everyone thinks there's a look to it. Or like, for example, I've had people on Twitter saying, you're not that autistic. I'm like, because I do a good job masking it, asshole. And I made a big post. It's just I'm tired of people saying that, because it's just if they're like, oh, well, everybody's a little autistic. Well, I guess because people have cramps and back pain, everyone's a little pregnant, so shut up.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm making a blog post. I had a caseworker till I was 20. From a little kid till I was 20 years old, I had a caseworker. And, I had to learn social skills because I didn't get all of them. It's not like I was being an asshole or anything on purpose. Just things were right over my head. My motor skills were shit. I couldn't really do too much athletics. I would trip over things that were not there because I would toe walk and stuff. And I had to go through occupational therapy in school and all sorts of stuff. So
when people see you right now, this is not a representation of just an average case, but this is somebody who has Asperger's, who's worked very hard and diligently to get to the point you are right now.
Yeah, this is
really you pass off. I mean, not as an insulting term, but really no one thinks that you have anything when you're in the gym. I didn't know. Your sister and your brother a little bit more, okay, there's something there. I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
I get, when I spoke to your sister, I'm like, oh, how old are you? Because at first I'm like, wow, you must really be old for your age. Look, and then she goes, no, I'm 17 or 16. I'm like, oh, okay. But then when my wife says, oh, no, but Serena also, I'm like, really? I didn't know. And then until talking to you and I ask you, because you don't really go up to people and go, hey, by the way, do you have any issues that you were born?
Yeah. But, I'm a big example of struggling through and just keep chugging no matter what. I'm one stubborn broad. So I was stubborn through all my, my OT and PT I had to do. I'm stubborn through all the, socialization I was forced into to learn how to people, as I put it.
Do you find that maybe the hardest, most difficult aspect of having Asperger's or not being, being a functioning person with autism is that if you were born, let's say, handicapped, that you were in a wheelchair, immediately people look at you and they understand that, okay, you were given a different set of rules in this life. You're going to have to work harder than the rest of us, just the facet of how it is. But when someone looks at you, they're like, well, you look fine. Yeah. And then there's no respect for no, I have to work very diligently and difficult. And this is a process that I have to stay up on so that I come off as, quote unquote, what your normal version of a person seems in social interactions.
Yeah, I always talk about how I have one foot in one world, the neurotypical world. Neurotypical is like the people who are not autistic, and then the neurodivergent world, the people who are autistic.
Yeah.
So I look normal. I work to look like I fit in with everybody else, while masking some of my, my little, how I shake sometimes. Like sometimes people see me do this with my head, kind of shake it like, rapidly for no reason. Like I have little tics that I try to hide because I was bullied as a kid for being different and everything, and I got into a lot of fights because of it, and I try to do it so not only to not, have that happen, but to also for other people not to feel all weird, because it contributes to kind of my social anxiety I still have, because of all this growing up.
Is it easier for you think, than it'll be for your brother? Just because, and the reason I say this, not that it's easier for you, it was obviously difficult, not undermining what you're doing. But in our society, it's acceptable more for a woman to, there's something wrong with you, it's okay. Whereas a man, and then now we're compounding that with it's a mental issue where I can't see that you have your arm in a sling or that you're in a wheelchair, you're walking with a stick because you're blind. And then being male, you're kind of told, like, suck it up. Like I feel like that's why, on a different note, when you find out all the military guys with PTSD, they're all committing, not all, but there's such a high percentage of suicide because as a man, I'm not allowed to come out and talk to you like, hey, dude, I'm having a hard time.
Yep.
That's an awkward conversation for men to have. So do you think your brother is looked at like where society, not that they give you a pass, but it's more acceptable for a woman to have an issue than it is for the male, especially a mental issue?
In autism, I believe it's actually vice versa.
Oh, okay.
So this whole lighted up blue that autism speaks, by the way, Shit Foundation doesn't really care about people on the spectrum. They actually spend more money on catering events than they do helping autistic people.
Sounds like most your
that whole lighting up blue was a whole thing for, they would diagnose boys with autism and refuse to diagnose women because women were better at masking, which is hiding their little tics and stuff, than boys were. So I do this, I've gone through my trial of fire, so hopefully my little brother and my little sister don't fall into the pitfalls I had to go through, because what happened with me first, I'm a child of the 90s. Everybody knew all the kids in the 90s had ADHD, so we're all on Ritalin and shit. So I was misdiagnosed for a long-ass time. I didn't get my autism diagnosis until I was 13. By that time, I've been through all the different antipsychosis medicines. Like I was diagnosed with multiple personality disorder, bipolar, ADHD, ODD, everything under the sun. And these meds were killing me. They were hurting my organs. They were making me fat. They were making me depressed. They were making me hostile. And they've led me to some very unsavory places. Now, because of my struggle, my siblings haven't had to go on these meds or whatever.
Your parents had to learn through you.
Yeah. And, I don't blame my parents.
Pass it on. No.
I blame Big Pharma. I'm not going to say that, no one take meds. There are some people who really do need meds, but we have a really big problem as a nation, over-prescribing antipsychosis medicines.
Yeah.
There are countries that do brain scans on people before they give them these medicines because they know the damage they will do. Meanwhile, in this country, we don't care. We write them off a script and just treat them like a pharmaceutical lab rat, which was exactly what I was for almost a decade.
When Princey comes on later on, we can bring that up to him because he's had that conversation with me that I didn't think, honestly, until I started traveling, and he pointed it out. He goes, because he lived in America for a little while, he goes, you guys Americans are weird. He goes, you're fucking sad, you get a pill. You fucking, you can't take a shit, take a pill. Or, take a pill, take a pill, take a pill. Yeah. He goes, it's not like that over on the other side of the pond.
Right.
Not that we don't give pills out, but it's like, it's for legitimate reasons, just because, I want to get rid of toenail fungus. Take a pill. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Serena, when you talk about like your mom being in the crowd and all that kind of stuff, and your parents, were your parents did they immediately see the benefits of you training martial arts, or was there any resistance at first?
At first, my mom, being my mom, she had a little bit of resistance of her child being hit in the face.
Sure.
But when they saw the benefits, how my mood was, like how happy I was after training, even though I'm like dead exhausted on the floor, looking like someone needs to like scrape me up with a spatula or something, they're like, you know what, she's doing a lot better than she used to. Like, I've tried my hand at all sorts of athletics, but training has made me happier and healthier than anything I've ever tried in life. And they're like, and I've stuck with it because of that. You know, it's not just like I like fighting, or because fighting's great, but I like how it keeps me sane. Like, because I've had to limit, for example, how much training I'm doing now because of my injury. You know, I'm going through my own stuff, but thankfully, you know, I have a good, good support system with Roxy and everything. My sports shrink, Mario Soto, you know, so I'm not as bad as some people, because I know some people who don't train, they go nuts. Like they go through like the whole angry, happy, sad in like 3 seconds.
You know, and anytime I do anything in the medical profession, and I don't have to go there a lot, but anytime now, because of my age, I'm starting to do more things, you know, I got to get more tests. And anytime I'm around anybody in the neuro world and they know that I'm a fighter, it's almost an admonishment, you know, like, Jesus, you know, like, why would you want to get hit in the head? Now, since you really have your foot in that door way more than I ever will, was there resistance from that side telling you, like, you're going to get punched in the head? No.
Nah, I was good, because autism isn't, you know, it's a neurological condition. It's not going to get worse by me being
no, and not that they would think it would get worse, but you're dealing with people that your workers that are helping you that deal with the brain, and typically, if I told them I'm going to fight, they'd be like, "Why would you do that? You not get hit in the head."
Somebody who that, yeah, no one's giving me crap about, you know, getting hit in the head. Even neurologists. My dad's been a nurse literally as long as I've been alive, and he's been in every department of the hospital. He doesn't care. He's like, all he cares about is like, if I get back-to-back knockouts, then we might have a sit-down about it then. But, like, other than that, yeah, he's happy. He sees his little girl whipping another little girl's ass.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought there would be, because I have one friend who's a neurosurgeon.
Yeah.
And he won't stop showing me pictures. He's talking to me and be like, you should not be hitting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he won't let his kids play football. Like, you know, and I can't argue with the guy. I mean, he deals with people that have severe head injuries from contact sports or from getting in car wrecks. And, you know, if right now you're in Vegas and you bash your head, and he's probably the guy that's going to try to put your brain back together. You know what I mean? Like, so he is not a fan of fighting. So I just wondered if some of the people you work with, if they also too would be like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like,
no, I have a good support system, because they know I fight smart, you know, and they know I won't, you know, if I get a concussion in training or something, I won't be a dumbass and go back into training without giving myself proper rest. They know, for the most part, I take very good care of my body. I won't let pride or ego interfere with that. Like, for example, I wish, you know, with whatever's going on in my body, that I could train, but I also don't want to fuck myself up worse and be out longer, right?
Does someone with Asperger's, you read social cues well, or did you have to learn that?
I had to learn that, all of it. Like, when I was younger, other emotions other than happy, angry, or sad, I didn't know what it was. Like, when someone's doing something with their eyebrows trying to be subtle, I'm like, whew. It's like, what? What was that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I would be, at that time, I would have been the worst spy in the world because of that.
Yeah. Have you always, because to me, you have a very outgoing personality, which is a good thing. I mean, that's a nice thing for anybody to have. But it's also the kind of thing, I think people who have more outgoing personalities and who are more gregarious then end up even having a harder time trying to explain to somebody they have a special challenge, because a lot of people don't have, they're introverts, and they're like, man, that person's way more on the ball than I am, because they're so good at communicating. And ironically, communicating is one of the challenges of autism. So have you always had that? Like, did that help you to have that personality, or is it something you feel like you developed?
It's something I think I developed, because I was kind of quiet, you know, I was very into my books and stuff, like, you know, always had my A's and B's, always on honor roll, always on dean's list in college and stuff. But I didn't start socially flourishing until I started training.
Oh, yeah.
And I did it because it's like, you know, I obviously can't speak for everybody on the spectrum. But for people who relate to me on the spectrum, I can be like, hey, you know, you're not alone, and talk about some of it. Because like I said earlier, we have awareness of what autism is, but we don't have awareness enough about how to treat people with autism. Because, yeah, it's a spectrum, everyone's different, but there are still people who are wanting to speak for people with autism when they don't even have it, or make every autism story be like, oh, woe is me, I have an autistic daughter or son. Like, it's another reason I don't like Autism Speaks. They give parents who openly talk about murdering their autistic children a platform for pity. And I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Get the fuck out of here with that shit.
Yeah.
But I speak, you know, because I'm not the only autistic MMA fighter like John Doomsday Howard. He got diagnosed in his late 30s with autism as well. And he's kind of outgoing too. You know, you talk to him about it. And Anthony Hopkins also got a recent diagnosis of Asperger's, and he's like in his 70s.
Wow.
Yeah. But that makes him a good actor because he's studying all the faces and stuff.
Right.
You know, so he's learning. It helps with his acting career when you think about it. So it's I'm just out there just, you know, to show that there's not a negative connotation with being autistic.
Yeah.
Is it easier to have social interactions for people that are autistic with other autism, or does it even make it worse when two autistic people?
It really depends. Like, sometimes, like,
it's too complex with people.
It's too complex because that's like saying, you know, every person who is, I don't know, a fighter can immediately get along. No, you got different personalities, you got different things.
Well, I was just thinking because of naturally, you know, for example, picking up on social cues probably means that someone with autism doesn't give social cues. So then the two of them is like, well, I'm not pitching, you're not catching, like it doesn't matter.
It's sometimes hard because some people have the social skills on the spectrum, some are still learning. So there's kind of a miscommunication half the time and it gets really awkward. Like I try to communicate with other people on the spectrum and they just, you know, I can't tell if they're, you know, they don't get it or they're just being a little off. And it kind of puts me in this, I don't know what the fuck's going on, so I'm gonna step back. You know, so there's times there's crossed lines and miscommunication, and sometimes it gets along great. It's really a luck of the draw.
Is there any one thing that always annoys the fuck out of you that, I guess, what was the word used? A normal neuropath? Or
neurotypical.
Neurotypical. That the neurotypical do towards the neuroatypical?
They always try to, like, you know, speak for us. They try to speak for us, like, oh, autism is this. And we got these autism warrior parents, like, who come on my Twitter and say I'm not that autistic because I can communicate. I'm communicating on fucking Twitter. Shut up. You know, a lot of people on the spectrum are now utilizing the internet to communicate with one another because it's easier because some of them are nonverbal. You know, some of them have a hard time making eye contact. I'm doing it now a little bit because I've been taught since I was like, you know, 13, you know, till I was 20. So I've had a lot of training on how to do it. But, you know, who the fuck are you to come on to me and say I'm not that autistic because I don't match your kid who's got a different diagnosis than me, has different skill levels than me? Yeah. You know, and I write about this in a blog. I mean, I'm about ready to make a new blog post because I haven't made one in forever.
Well, I think I always kind of understood that, unless I'm wrong, that autism's on a spectrum.
Yes.
You have what they consider highly functioning people with autism that can basically go undiagnosed even. Be like, so-and-so's a little quirky, but there's nothing wrong with them. All the way to somebody who just will never speak, doesn't make eye contact, who basically is shut off from how we interpret the world.
Yeah, but these autistic warrior parents or whatever, they always assume everybody with autism has to be that nonverbal, you know, doesn't make eye contact. On the heavy end of the non-functioning. It's like, look, it's a spectrum, and like I said, every autism story doesn't have to be a sob story. It doesn't have to be one of victimhood either. Celebrate the triumphs. Celebrate all the good stuff that comes with it.
It's also, you know, I think it's just a general flaw of human nature that a lot of people just naturally gravitate toward any group, whatever that group is. Okay, let's divide everybody up. Who's more? Who's less? Who's better? Who's, you know?
They make it stereotypical.
Yeah.
Like I'm saying, like, okay, because I don't fit in the stereotypes of autism you believe in. I'm apparently not autistic or not autistic enough to have a voice and speak for other people who are like-minded like me on the spectrum. Who the fuck are you to try and silence my voice like that? Yeah. Like, I see people who are authors talking. There was one woman who made a book that was New York Times bestseller about her son. Oh, From Siri with Love, that's the book. And I hate giving this author or you know, credit or the book or whatever, but she's talking about intimate details about her son without his permission. And now this poor kid is probably going to be embarrassed for the rest of his life because of the choices his mother made in order about talking about autism. And it disgusts me. It's like, if you're going to talk about autism, you don't do that. You don't humiliate your son publicly like that. Right. And then whine about people who are autistic calling you out about saying they're stifling your free speech.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a good platform to be able to do it. And like I said, you've got a great personality and a demeanor that helps to communicate that, because, you know, because you're talking about different levels, there are people who are far enough on the other side of that level, they're not going to be able to communicate that, you know. So it, in a weird way, I maybe can draw an MMA analogy, because we talk sometimes about how people can be, there's so much of a depth of knowledge in MMA, but sometimes people who are really accomplished fighters aren't particularly adept at being able to explain it or coach it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a unique ability within that world to be able to be one of the people who can not only do it but communicate it. And I guess to finish the analogy, somebody who not only lives it but can also articulate the situation
and pass it on. So
for sure, right on.
Yeah, and that's why I have an outgoing personality. You know, because I went from little shut in. I still kind of am. I play my video games and stuff when I'm not training, but I come out there. Because I remember what it's like to be kind of shy and antisocial. Now I just kind of want to be with everyone and all happy, because I know what having no friends because I couldn't really get everything together was like, but now I want to be with everybody and kind of share my experiences with the world.
Well, thanks for coming on with us today. Let's tell everybody how to follow you on social media.
So I'm everywhere, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Serena Southpaw. So y'all can follow me wherever. I'm going to continue posting about, my views on autism and stuff. Also starting a Twitch, so on my off time. So if you guys love video games and want to play with me. Right now, I'm really heavy into Call of Duty with my sponsors, because they also own esports teams, and they decided to sponsor me. Beef jerky company, Jerky Pro. Love those guys. But I'm also big into Monster Hunter World, and I'm playing the new Mega Man game that came out, because that's awesome.
Cool. Well, come back on with us. Keep us posted on when your next fight is.
Of course.
And maybe come back on with us, and let's talk about when the next fight is. When you got a fight coming up, something like that. Hey, you know what, Frank? We're doing parting gifts for in-studio guests, because we got to move some books. So for being our guest in studio today, Serena DeJesus receives a copy of The Pact by Cody Garbrandt. So we've got to enjoy that. Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, we got a stack of books we got to pass out over there. All right. Well, thanks for coming on with us, and we'll see you on the show next time. All right.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Another member of our Syndicate MMA family here on Phone Booth Fighting. All right, Frank. We've got Princey, Carl Prince, your striking coach, in studio with us. If you're wondering who the new face is in studio, we've also got a new face over on our FaceTime, and that is going to be the focus of our next segment, because he is Craig Diamond, the owner, the CEO of Diamond MMA. Craig, welcome to the show. How you doing, man? It's good to meet you.
Good, you too. Thanks for having me.
So, Craig, I have to tell you, I don't know if Adam, your PR guy, told you this whole backstory, but he actually reached out to us, Frank, and said, hey, I really love the content of Phone Booth Fighting and your podcast. Would you be interested in having our owner, Craig, on the show? Craig, as I got that, I mean, we have sponsors on the podcast and stuff like that, and a lot of times we get familiar with the sponsors when they first approach us about coming on the podcast or whatever. Not the case with Diamond MMA, because when I got that email from Adam, I had just gotten done sparring. I'm sitting in the parking lot of Syndicate MMA wearing my Diamond MMA cup. And Craig, the reason I was wearing my Diamond MMA cup is because this guy over here, Frank Mir, when I asked him what is the best cup I could get, what did you tell me?
I told him the Diamond. I told him the cup's a great cup, and I like Muay Thai cups also, but the Diamond cup, the suspension system it comes with, Thai cups don't have that, man. They come with a rope. So I mean, it's light years ahead of the game.
This thing is about. It's weird meeting you now, Craig, because I feel like because your cup, we've had such an intimate relationship for a long period of time now. You know what I'm saying? It's like it feels like we're doing it in reverse. It feels like you and I should have gone out to dinner a couple of times first, and then I have the relationship with the product, but it's actually happened backwards. So that's my long way of telling you make an awesome product. So thanks.
Man. I appreciate it. It's been a labor of love. I've been working on this for almost 10 years, and I've been a athlete. I played football and baseball and hockey and wrestled and jiu-jitsu, and there was never a good cup growing up, and most guys didn't wear cups. So I got into the sport. I started actually making T-shirts. This is one of our designs, the Diamond MMA brand. I kind of thought all the T-shirt brands in MMA were kind of cheesy with the flaming skulls and eagles and all that. So I came up with a T-shirt brand, and then through that we started making fight shorts, and then through talking to fighters, they really needed a good cup. So we kind of scrapped all that and started interviewing all the fighters across the country at the top gyms, what they like and don't like about their current cups. And we're finding out a lot of guys were doubling up, having to put underwear or compression shorts over their cup just to keep it locked in place.
Right.
And a lot of guys, like Frank said, were wearing the Muay Thai cups that has that shoelace up your crack. So
right.
we kind of just designed everything. I mortgaged my house and spent a lot of time up late at nights just figuring out how to design a comfortable protective cup. So if you're fighting in the cage and you get kicked, in the family jewels, you're not going to go down and need that stoppage time. So, the real design is a compression short.
Mm-hmm.
It's got, you can see, built-in jock strap,
mm-hmm.
and 2 straps that kind of go on the butt. And these straps is similar to that Muay Thai strap that'll go up your crack, but it's a little more comfortable, and that's going to keep that cup in place, along with our Diamond MMA cup that's comfortable and protected.
I've always preferred not to have things up my butt.
Boy, preaching to the choir there.
You're right.
Yeah.
Never been into pegging.
Yeah. It's that's and you're holding up the exact model there that I wear, and then of course we got the demo on the website here up on the big screen in the studio. But the first thing that I noticed about it, and I'm telling you, anybody who does any kind of athletics where you're going to have a cup, I always tell them, especially training MMA. I mean, even if you're not training MMA, so you just do jiu-jitsu, whatever. Mm-hmm. I always tell people there's 2 things you definitely want to invest in: a good mouthpiece and a good cup. Because to me, mouthpieces and cups, Craig, are like coffee and boob jobs. You get what you pay for. You can save a little money, but you're definitely going to feel it on the back end. So the first thing that I noticed about taking Frank's recommendation, because I had gone through all the cups where, I mean, even the ones that weren't particularly cheap, I mean, you could still spend a decent amount of money on one and not get a good one, and they would move around. They wouldn't be they would be so super uncomfortable. And this one, I actually don't mind, because sometimes if I don't go straight home from the gym or whatever, I mean, a lot of times you want to get that thing off as quick as you can. I actually don't mind just walking around in this thing till I get home. So, I mean, what made you, Craig, think to specifically get into that niche of equipment? Does that make sense? I
mean, I didn't mean to get into it. I first wanted to just get involved in the sport. I'm going to be 40 years old tomorrow, so I watched some of the tapes in college. I was always a big athlete, and I just loved the sport when it got back on TV and started making T-shirts and fight shorts. And then the fighters were saying, "Hey, man, we don't need any more fight shirts. We need a good cup." They were just wearing the stuff at Walmart, so I recruited a couple of designers. One's a wrestler from Purdue that trains with Gil Melendez. He's an industrial designer, and him and I kind of just started making this thing to solve the problem in the game when someone would get kicked low. And then Rogan saw my videos of me getting kicked in the cup to test it, and we sent one to him. This was years ago. And then on one of the broadcasts, there was a low blow shot, and guy went down, and Joe started talking about our product on the live broadcast, and that really it did a lot for us, and it crashed our website and really got the word out about our product.
Yeah, that's you, by the way. If you go to diamondmma.com, this is the website, you can see that demo that Craig is talking about, where the guys are really testing it in real time. I don't know if I got kicked that hard yesterday, but we were sparring yesterday, and a guy tried to teep kick, and it went low, and he caught me right in the bad spot. And he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Let me give you a minute. And I just looked at him, stone-faced, and I said, "No minute needed. I'm wearing Diamond MMA."
That's the goal. That's what we want.
No minute needed. Yeah.
The thing I do like about it the most, and it makes sense now that you said a wrestler helped you design, is it doesn't move around when you grapple. Because I have never worn a cup until this cup came along, even with the Thai cup. I only wore it if I was sparring on my feet. But if we were doing anything on the ground, hell no, I ain't wearing that shit. Because half the time your equipment comes out of the side, you go to armbar someone, or they're in half guard and they sit across it, it crushes you. It moves too much. Cups weren't invented for jiu-jitsu guys. It just doesn't work. And even wrestlers in college don't wear cups. I never wore a cup when I wrestled just because it moves around. It's just too awkward in grappling. Boxing, you can get away with it because the stance and whatnot, the movement is not as severe on the ground. No one's rubbing up against you. But, for what we do, that, like I said, the fact that it sticks in place, that's my favorite aspect.
Thanks. Yeah, that's the whole point. I mean, if we could make the cup stay in place for grapplers and MMA fighters, and it's going to be good enough for baseball and hockey and lacrosse and all these other sports. We've got male nurses that work in hospitals that are wearing these, and correctional officers that are wearing these. Just, it's amazing the different guys doing paintball. I mean, just anybody that wants to protect their junk and have a cup that's not going to shift and move is really what we're doing. So that's good to hear. If
you need convincing of the importance of what we're talking about, Frank, tell Craig the Mirko Crow Cop story.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, that's back when I still wore a tie cup. And I think Richard's gone and found the clip and isolated it for me. But I'm moving and I'm wrestling against the cage with Mirko. So because we wrestled with each other, it moved my cup over.
Now, this is live on pay-per-view.
Right. And then when he throws a knee, he continues to move it over even more and crushes me. And it hurt, but what hurt even more was that I couldn't get my junk back inside the cup without being real graphic on air. So I'm trying to find a way to do this without, you know what I mean? Like, I'm in the middle of the cage, dude. Like, I got like 3 cameras on me and then, 10,000 people watching. I'm trying to figure out how to maneuver. So I'm looking over at my corner. I'm like, I'm not inside, I don't know how else to say it. I'm not in, man. I'm not in. And then one of my trainers is like, well, get on your butt and bounce, see if you can adjust it. So I'm sitting there like humping up at the air, trying to, hopefully I can get the thing to move without actually just saying screw it and just, probably would have been better in hindsight just to put my hand down my pants.
Yeah.
Probably looked a lot less worse than I ended up making it look.
Yeah. These are problems. Yeah.
It is a problem, and that's the point. We would love to see our level of protection be the mandated groin protection for all these organizations, for everybody. Just for that reason, it's hard enough to do what you guys are doing and these fights and all the pressure, but to have to worry about a cup and a piece of equipment that's not working right is the last thing you need.
Yeah, if you go, also go, Mikey, to the shop drop down menu there. Yeah, and just hit. That's fine. Yeah, because it shows you the difference. Because the other thing is too, the way. I mean, we talk a lot about how good the cup is, but the shorts, Craig, themselves, and that whole system that you have. I mean, you were just showing them there a second ago momentarily. That makes all the difference in the world too. And I even noticed on your website you've got like where you can just order the actual shorts, which helps with not having to do laundry every day.
So we have a couple. I mean, our real bread and butter is the 4-strap jock. It's these the inside leg straps and then these 2 rear straps that kind of go on the butt. And we have a jock strap version where it's just the jock with no compression shorts.
I didn't know that yet.
You have the compression shorts with the built-in jock, and
what I use.
Some other products. So definitely, some guys have a different preference of what they like to use.
Yeah. Have you found that, because like I was saying with Frank, I mean, Frank's the one who originally turned me on to your company after just a lot of frustrating trial and error on my end. And I was the typical, Frank's the pro fighter. I was the guy who's, signing up for his first jiu-jitsu class. What, did you feel like that didn't need to be cleared up? Oh, okay.
What we were talking about off the air. I was trying to figure out a joke on it, but I knew you didn't want it.
Well, okay, I'll tell you what, I will just say this too. You don't
have an easy time with cups.
I will just say that one of the things I appreciate about Diamond MMA is that there is a lot of room in the cup. There is. Good. I'll just be honest with you. Yeah, and I appreciate that, Craig, because sometimes that is an issue. But
a manly man like yourself needs good volume and depth to get all of his important parts inside.
Look, here's what I'm saying is you can't have too little room. You can always have more than you need. I mean, that's fine. You keep.
I've always got more than I need.
Hey, you keep your keys in there, so extra mouthpiece. But
actually, I didn't realize they came up with the jock strap only one. I need to order some more because I'm constantly. I only have 2 pair, and every night if it doesn't get washed, then I don't wear a cup.
No, that's me. Yeah, with the laundry, so that comes in handy too. But what I was going to say is that Frank was the pro fighter. He turns me on it, but I'm probably the typical person that you hope to find as a customer, Craig? Because I'm the guy that just, oh, I need a cup. I don't know much about this kind of stuff. I just signed up to start jiu-jitsu, so I go to the sporting goods store, and, well, I don't know, this one you can get one for $15, but why is this other one more expensive? You know, you don't know what to get. So, you know, I'm probably the person who really needs to receive that message. And what I was going to ask you is, have you found that through the years of doing this, I mean, you mentioned, you know, Rogan doing a testimonial for you and everything, and then, you know, obviously Frank knew about the product. Now as you go, has it been a long enough period of time that you find that word of mouth is just kind of speaking for itself, circulating amongst the community?
Yeah, I mean, we have, from, you know, TJ Dillashaw to Anthony Pettis to, all the champions have been wearing our stuff, and all the guys below them, and you know, the average white belt or whoever that's just training and wants good protection. You know, it is expensive, but when it comes to your nuts, it's usually worth it. I mean, we give a lifetime warranty on our cup. If it ever cracks or tears or whatever, we send you a new one. And yeah, I mean, it's spreading. We're trying to keep up with demand. We're growing, and yeah, we just want to be the best in the world at one thing and solve this problem. So guys that are training, no matter what they're training, can just focus on their training, not shifting and adjusting their cup. And like Frank said, having a nut or something outside of that cup and then getting smashed, that's what really that's what causes the injury.
God almighty.
You're better wearing nothing at all. So, yeah.
Hurts just thinking about it. I don't know if that's an official ad slogan or not, but what do you do? When it comes to your nuts, it's worth it is a great slogan.
You know how many fights I fought without a cup because I hated how they moved around on the ground?
Oh, man.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because you walk up, the referee never checks your cup himself. He asks you to do the...
Yeah.
Knock, right.
I never understood, so then when I would walk up to him, I would just knock on the top of my bladder. Yeah, I got a cup, dude, right here.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And walk right inside the cage.
All right, you know what I'm going to do, Craig? I just thought of something. So I have my first amateur MMA fight coming up December 1st, and when the referee does the cup check thing for me, and rather than just doing the knock, I'm going to do like the diamond sign.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I'll just do that on the camera, right, so everybody knows.
Do I get to kick you in the balls before you go in there then?
You know what? That boy, no, is the answer. But at least I know if you ever did it, that I would be.
Survive.
Well, you've just told us that sometimes after training you still wear a cup, so we're actually going to have to test that out. I think every now and again.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, a couple hours after training, just give him a kick, and he should be wearing it. That's,
I had a coach that had to do that with me because I refused to wear a cup so often that it was one of my fights, and I was going to fight Congo, and I wouldn't wear a cup to practice. And he was like, you got to get used to wearing a cup, so wear one. I'm like, screw this shit. And so then he would check me in practice and go to knee me in the nuts, not hard, or slap me in the balls. And if I wasn't wearing a cup, obviously that wasn't the most comfortable experience.
Yeah.
So it was like, you know, he wouldn't ask me anymore. I'm like, I'm not going to ask you anymore. Just every once in a while, I'm going to pop you in the balls.
Jesus Christ. All right.
It's a good friend.
Yeah, cup to mouth guards are definitely important. And, you know, I love what I do. I'm an athlete. I train jiu-jitsu and still play baseball, and I wear them all the time. You know, once you get used to wearing a comfortable cup, you don't feel good not having a cup on. So yeah, it's and Frank, I'm definitely going to send you a nice care package, no pun intended, but get you some more pairs for your laundry, because you should definitely have a pair for every time you're training.
Fantastic. Yeah, the website is diamondmma.com, and actually, for anybody listening, we have a cool offer that Adam, your PR guy, hooked us up with, Craig. And it was funny because when we talked, and like I said, he had just kind of made this cold not solicitation, but email reach out. You know, he reached out and just said, hey, really like the podcast, would you be interested in this? And I told him, I said, man, I think I have personally sold 3 or 4 of these just in this training program that I'm doing, because there were a lot of guys they're doing this program with me called Wimp to Warrior, where they're all doing their first amateur fight, and a lot of the guys for the first time were having to go, hey, I got to buy a cup, I got to buy a mouthpiece, what do I get? So I was preaching the Diamond MMA gospel up at Syndicate, and so I know they got several of them. So Adam sent us a link, Frank, that we're putting up on our website at phoneboothfighting.com. We'll also tweet it out on our social media and everything, where you can actually go through us here at Phone Booth Fighting to get a Diamond MMA cup, and it'll actually help support the show because we're doing a little affiliate program thing.
Well, hopefully our listeners learn that. I mean, hey, coming from a guy that would rather not wear a cup than wear a bad cup, this is the cup I wear when I fight now.
You know what it should be? That should be our official secret Phone Booth Fighting handshake. Is like when people come to our live shows and stuff, they can just go around and hit each other in the nuts and see who's got the Diamond MMA cup on.
I got to get some for your studio. I'll send you guys some.
We'd love it.
Protect everybody now.
Yeah.
I can see it now. It's like, well, you guys said it was a free ball shot. I'm like, what have you started?
Craig, thanks for making some time for us, man. I know you're on a vacation, so that's.
I'm always working. Thanks, guys, for having me. And yeah, it means a lot. Again, I started this company out of my car, and we still got a long ways to go, but we make a great product, and we're getting a lot of support from people. And yeah, follow us on Instagram at Diamond MMA and check out our website. And if you get our cup or in our system and it's not perfect or it just doesn't fit right, we'll exchange it or return it even after you've worn it. So that's how we do things, and I appreciate you guys having me on.
It's awesome. Great product and a great company. All right, Craig Diamond from Diamond MMA. DiamondMMA.com is the website. Thanks for coming on with us again, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Frank, I don't know if you guys saw the news. Princey and I were talking about it a second ago, but Eddie Alvarez has now officially signed with ONE. You know, he became a free agent. Of course, the former Bellator champion turned UFC champion once again became a free agent and surprised some people by deciding to go with ONE, the overseas organization. A lot of people thought, hey, if the UFC doesn't re-sign him, maybe he sticks around in Bellator. But you know, it seems like he's at that point in his career. He said himself that, well, you know, ONE is the only major organization I haven't gone to yet where I haven't won a title. But I'm sure money factored into this thing too.
The guy's already proven himself. He's won belts in 2 of the top organizations in the world. You know what I mean? He's been a Bellator champion, now a UFC champion. I'm pretty sure that at this point in his career, pay has to be, and rightfully so. If I was his buddy and he told me that he's going to go stick with the UFC or stick with Bellator and get paid less, I would tell him that he's an idiot. At that point, you've made it. You've put titles on your trophy, on your case. You know, you got the medals hanging on the wall. Like now, you know what? You can't fight forever. You better put some more money away in the bank, or you know, whatever you want to invest in. I would think that's, you know. So basically, it just shows me that ONE FC probably offered him the most money.
He's 34 years old, so I mean he's still got you know, he's still got some fight left in him. Princey, you said you had communicated with him. Was that the possibility of maybe doing something with ACB? Was that?
Yeah, well, not directly with him, but I was contacted by the Russian matchmaker from ACB to inquire as towards his availability, and then and when I spoke to his representatives, they just said that they were looking for more. They were really happy with what the UFC had offered.
Yeah,
they were looking for more like of an ambassador role for him, so he could like be more invested within the company.
Okay.
And by all intents and purposes, it sounds like he found that within ONE. Obviously, Eddie Alvarez, before he had a successful career with Bellator, was over in Japan with the likes of maybe Dream, I think, and I think even for Pride, perhaps. But so he's built his name there with, and perhaps they're seeing him as like a flagship for their lightweight division, just as they'd seen Askren as a flagship for the welterweight before. I have one of my guys that actually fights for ONE. So what I will say is that they're the biggest organisation that nobody really knows about in Asia. They are the UFC. So
right, yeah. And you know, with Alvarez in particular, I mean, he's coming off the loss back in July to Dustin Poirier. That was the last fight on his contract. But you know, his time in the UFC, I mean, I think you have to declare it a success. I mean, not only, well, that's a silly thing to say, of course you declare it a success, but what I mean is that even after he was not the lightweight champion anymore, he fought nothing but contenders.
Justin Gaethje, what a fight that was.
That's what I was going to say. And even losses were, the Gaethje fight was a win, but even losses like to Poirier were exciting fights. You know, you know, he really, you know, because sometimes when somebody comes over, especially when they're they have such a reputation as somebody who fought outside the UFC, but we've never seen him in the UFC. What's it going to be like when they actually get in? He comes in, not only looks like he immediately belongs, he's putting on fantastic fights and becomes their champion. And, I also think about his career, too, because there was that time in Bellator, when he was having the contract dispute and everything, that he had to sit out. You remember all that? And I think he's been fortunate in the sense that even though he's gone through struggles like that, it really didn't derail his career. He really came back just without missing a beat. And so maybe this is exactly what an organization like One needs. Like you said, maybe the biggest organization that most average fans don't know about, maybe this is the kind of thing that helps them get familiar.
Yeah. I think potentially so. But and when you speak about Alvarez within the UFC, what's like the biggest memory that you have of him? Obviously, he beat RDA, but that wasn't a very famous fight that soon got forgotten about. So
right.
So I would think about the McGregor outing, right?
Yeah, right.
And it's such a shame that his legacy would be hung on that fight. I think he maybe lost his first fight in the UFC. I could be wrong, but he was interspersed with a lot of success.
Yeah, that was the loss to Cowboy Cerrone. But then he went on to defeat Gilbert Melendez, Anthony Pettis, and RDA before that McGregor fight.
They can all fight a little bit, right?
Yeah,
they're all not too shabby. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Gagey fight, and like I said, the Poirier fights.
He never. If you just listed the top 10 there, I think so.
Yeah,
he fought a who's who of killers there.
Yeah, I mean, can you relate to that a little bit, Frank, in terms of, I mean, you're only a few years older than him, but, you kind of got to that same point with going to Bellator and things like that, where, like I think you just said, there are things that factor into of fighters' decision-making into their 30s that maybe don't necessarily factor into their 20s.
Yeah, because when you sit there and go, okay, well, he's not old yet, he's 34.
Yeah.
34 for a lightweight is not old, but you're starting to get there.
Yeah.
And if you got to think, okay, this is the contract I sign now. Well, you sign, let's say, the average contract, 3 to 4 fights. That's an average of probably about 2 years that you're under contract by that company. Well, all of a sudden now my next contract after this one, I'm going to be 36, pushing 37, if there's no injuries involved that extend how long I'm under contract. That's probably not going to be a very lucrative contract, signing a 37-year-old lightweight.
Yeah.
So that's why you have to look at, it'd be like, heavyweights, we age, I think, at a much slower rate for whatever reason. We fight less than the lightweights do. We're not cutting weight.
You peak later, don't you?
We do.
And I believe that within every fight, you do have a window. So whether Eddie knows that or his representatives can listen, the window's closing, whether that be psychologically, whether that be like obviously within his person. So like you said, it's a good opportunity to jump out, have a good payday within a good organisation. And really, if you look at the organisation, there's only really Shinya Aoki within that weight division that we would have really heard of on these shows, and it isn't perhaps the UFC caliber of the opponents that we've spoken about. No. So, and with him wanting a role as an ambassador, maybe like you said, he got 2 years left within him, and then he moves on to be a presenter. Is an opportunity to do that within one. It sounds like a terrific move to me.
Yeah, and like you pointed out, the decisions that a 30-year-old fighter make, 20-year-old fighter, they are different because just as I say that, hey, when you're pushing the twilight years of your career, money probably becomes one of the biggest factors for your decision-making skills. Well, hell, there's a time when you first start out, it's just to get a fight. Then there are times when it's like, okay, well, now it's to get a fight where people can see me. Now it's to fight people that are super tough so I can prove myself. That becomes the first factor into me, so now it's like, well, I want to win a title. Okay, now I want to win a title somewhere where it's a respectable main organization title. You know what I mean? Like, so if someone says, hey, I'll pay you more money to fight somewhere over here, and you're a young guy, it's like, well, no, I need to put my mark on the world. I'm going to go ahead and take the tougher route that's less money because I'm looking for a different reward. But then once those rewards have been attained, like Eddie Alvarez has attained those awards, well, now it's like, well, are you fighting to go ahead and now say that you're the ONE FC champ? I'm sure that would be cool for him. I'm thinking that. But I guarantee he didn't go with ONE FC if they would have paid him less just to say that he went and won a ONE FC title. You know what I mean? Like, if he did do that, then I'm going to have to talk to Eddie and be like, dude, that was dumb. You know what I mean? Like, at this point, you have less fights ahead of you than you have, behind you. You have to select cash first.
Well, let's put a wrap on this one. I want to thank everybody for being with us on this episode of Phone Booth Fighting. I want to thank Serena DeJesus for joining us, talking some women's MMA, one of our training partners over there at Syndicate MMA. Also, Craig Diamond from Diamond MMA, the best cup that money can buy, ladies and gentlemen. Check out diamondmma.com. Carl Princey, Frank's striking coach, sitting in the studio with us, bringing an international perspective and flavor to the broadcast, which it classes it up a little bit.
That's the nicest thing that anyone's ever said about. Honestly,
you haven't been to
I know
Manchester.
that Frank was. I know that Frank was alluding to the size of your penis. I've never had anyone congratulate me on that, so I'll take that.
There you go. There you go. All right, Frank, do a couple of things for me in closing. Tell them about the importance of that Amazon banner at phoneboothfighting.com. Why should people click through that to shop on Amazon?
Yeah, by going on to phoneboothfighting.com, you see down there we have the Amazon banner. Just click on that banner. It transports you there to Amazon so you can do your shopping for all your wants and needs. But by going through there first, we get a small percentage of your purchase at no extra cost to you. Comes back to help us here at the show.
We see you doing it. We see you supporting us, and we thank you for it. Also, go to iTunes, look up Phone Booth Fighting, click on those 5 stars, give us a 5-star review. That helps our ratings, and write us a favorable line or two in the review section, and maybe we'll read those on the air. We like to do that from time to time. One more thing, Frank, tell everybody how to follow us on social media.
Well, you can find us on Phone Booth Fighting on Facebook and Instagram. And if you're on Snapchat and Twitter, it's just Phone Booth Fight.
That's it for all of our guests in studio. And Porno Mikey, the newly married Porno Mikey, who's back in studio producing. It's good to have the band back together. I'm Richard Hunter, and we'll see you right back here next time on Phone Booth Fighting.